And we are live once again. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Friday Night Tech Talk. I'm Mobile Geezer, which you're aware of if you're watching on my YouTube channel, but you might also be watching on one of my Facebook IDs, either Mobile Geezer or George Hayes, and we simulcast all three at the same time. We get together every week. I go over some articles from the last week to this week that I find that I think might be interesting to other people who are interested in tech as I am. And I try to find articles that you don't find everywhere and that you may not have heard about. Of course, if there's a big event that week, I get articles on that, but I don't think there was this week. And Eleanor is the first one in. Glad you're here, as always. And let's see. Oh, and as always, every week I give you the show notes on my webpage. So let's share screen and show you that. And these are the show notes just for tonight's show. So if you go to mobilegeezer.wordpress.com, click on today's date, you'll get just the stories and the show notes for tonight's show. Also, thanks to StreamYard for the last month or so, I guess, if you scan that QR code and follow that link, that'll take you directly to the show notes for the webpage, and you can follow along in the articles and click on them and follow along as much as you want. Now, as I do every week, I'll give you a little preview of what we're going to go over tonight. So, I'm going to start with Yale and Google deliver on real AI usefulness by collaborating on a new AI model which may lead to new cancer treatments. So I thought I'd start with a real positive story first. Usually I do something negative, but this one is very positive, and we might have some new cancer treatments that AI actually helped come up with. So I think that's very, very positive. So that's my first story. Next up, I said Google comes through with a timely bug fix for the Pixel 9 and Pixel 10 phones. Seems like Pixel 9 and Pixel 10 phones were having some issues, and pretty bad issues, I gather. And my Pixel 10 hasn't had any of them. But they fixed it, and they fixed it in the background. I've got that story on Phone Arena, so that's good news. And next up, I said useful new Google security feature for your phone. Found this story on CNET. And this has to do with you can verify your recovery if you need to get recovery on your phone. You can phone a friend to recover your account. So, interesting. And next up, I said, does premium flagship still mean your phone must be a pro version? I think not. And Phone Arena is showing that you can have the base version of the newest flagships and do just fine. And I'll both of those here, I have them right here beside me, so I'll show you those as we go. Oh, and the phone, that was my main phone for work today, was my OnePlus 13. And my secondary phone was my iPhone 17. But I'll show you that when we get down to the article. And that's, I agree very much with what he's saying in this article about not needing to go to pro phones this time, and I didn't. Okay, next up, this one I found really interesting. Rent a Cyber Friend lets you pay to interact with a human rather than a bot. And people are actually paying to talk to other people so they don't have to talk to a bot. So it's very interesting. So it's called Rent a Cyber Friend. So we'll get to that. I found that story on TechCrunch. And also my last story I also found on TechCrunch. This might interest like Mike. Last week I showed you a story that DoorDash was using delivery robots. Well, Waymo and DoorDash partner up in Phoenix testing self-driving deliveries. So Waymo may show up with your order and no driver needed. So they're testing it in Phoenix. So it's interesting. Interesting that I managed to get two DoorDash stories in a row week after week, and that was pure coincidence. So those are the stories we'll go over tonight. Oh, and I have not checked to see if Ted sent me any of, and he did. Hi, George. I won't be able to stream tonight. Have a good weekend. So at least he let us know he won't make it tonight. He's been making it the last couple of weeks. So always a better show with him, but we will soldier on. You just get me, which means it'll be somewhat of a quicker show. But then you don't have to hear me gabbing, asking Ted about how his personal life and his bicycle stuff is going. So if by some miracle either Will or Mike happens to pop in, I will certainly let you know. Right now, the only one that I can see that's in here is still Eleanor. So we'll see who pops in. So back to my first story. And like I said, I found this very positive. Yale and Google deliver on real AI usefulness by collaborating on a new AI model, which may lead to new cancer treatments. I found it on Tech Radar, so let's go take a look. This potential Google AI cancer treatment breakthrough could be AI's moonshot moment. Yeah, this is big stuff, not the normal little stuff that we read about with AI. Written by Lance Ulanoff yesterday. Google Gemma, that's the new AI model, may have done what cancer researchers could not. Yeah, and this is pretty interesting. So they're going to probably have some treatments because of the AI that they couldn't come up with any other way. So you'll see that in the story. So let's drop it into reader view and get rid of these ads. Where were you when AI discovered a potential new treatment for cancer? I was at my desk writing the story. The news announced by Google this week, October 15, is in a way delivering on a promise that AI would someday solve the world's biggest problems. Yeah, AI was supposed to be this big thing. Well, this is kind of a big thing. It's the kind of pie in the sky statement that tends to get under people's skin. AI is not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's not even one thing. That's true. AI has many different generative models handling all sorts of tasks. What they tend to have in common is their size, and they're huge, and their ability to solve problems based on that size. For most people, though, AI or chatbots like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, and others are best used to boil down complex ideas, create images based on text prompts, and put Stephen Hawking in an F1 race car. In general, AI is not solving the hard problems. Now, just because Formula One is my favorite sport, I didn't pick that for that sentence. Matter of fact, they just had some qualifying in Texas for the Formula One race this weekend. AI scientists. New research coming out of a collaboration between Google and Yale University claims that a new 27 billion parameter foundation Gemma model designed to understand human cells, and that's the key, developed a novel hypothesis about cancer cellular behavior, which was then confirmed by the team. The discovery could lead to new cancer treatments, which, based on what I'm reading in here, it sounds like it certainly will. At the heart of the discovery is a problem that up to now, no human cancer researcher could solve: how to make cold or hidden cancer cells show themselves. So humans couldn't find these hidden cancer cells. So of course you can't cure it if you can't find it, but the AI can find them. The task put before the AI model was creating a drug that could act as a conditional amplifier. While smaller models failed on this task, the giant C2S scale 27B model did not, with it looking at 4,000 drugs and predicting which ones would boost antigen presentation. So this is kind of a big deal. The model identified both drugs that are known to possess these capabilities and surprising hits for drugs they did not know could possess this capability. So they discovered some of the drugs would help with cancer that nobody knew before. The paper notes that the researchers then validated the hypothesis with real-world tests in which they tested a combination of interferon and the identified drug simvastatin. Simvastatin. As presented by the GAMMA AI model, AI model, the dosage increased antigen presentation and made the cold tumor more visible. So, yeah, of course, this could be big. If you didn't know it was there before, you couldn't treat it. Well, now you can. I know that's a lot, and I gave you the Cliff Notes version. But think of it this way. Many late-stage cancers are not diagnosed because they can't find it, including prostate and breast cancer because of cold tumors in which there aren't enough T cells present for a diagnosis until the cancer is far advanced and harder to treat. This breakthrough could lead to much earlier diagnosis, and that could save lives. Of course, if they know about it earlier, they can treat it. So pretty good news. All that makes this discovery exciting, but that's not necessarily my point. It's this moment where the true promise of AI is, if not realized, glimpsed. Yeah, because this is some of the big stuff that they thought AI would really help us with, and this one's coming through. Conversations about the pros and cons of AI are pretty common these days, with many people sharing an uncomfortable mix of excitement and fear. I don't get the fear stuff. AI is a fun and useful tool for quickly ideating. I never saw that word before. Summarizing, that's what I use it for mostly, and even creating, but it's also a massive disruptor. Jobs are changing because of AI. Some are disappearing, that's true. Professionals in every walk of life use it casually and with real purpose. Doctors might quickly turn to, say, Gemini for more ideas on a diagnosis. Artists will rough out an idea. Filmmakers might make a low-resolution movie of a scene. There are endless possibilities and just as many questions about where all this is going. However, the idea that AI could be something more than our assistant and plaything has always been part of the narrative. It's just that we never saw any evidence of it, what we have now. Say, helping solve world hunger, the climate crisis, or international conflict. Now, though, we have proof, perhaps, that it has at least the potential to do big, important things that matter to humanity. That's a moonshot moment if ever I saw one. I hope there's more to come, as do I. So, a very positive article, and maybe some people will have their lives saved because of this AI discovery. So, pretty cool stuff, I think. And here's Annette. Glad to have you here, Annette. You and Eleanor are the first two. So, you guys are faithful as all get out, and I appreciate it. Okay, so, very positive story for our first one, and maybe people will get their lives saved. So we'll move on. Google comes through with a timely bug fix for Pixel 9 and Pixel 10 phones, and that's on Phone Arena. So let's take a look at that. Like I said, my Pixel 10 hasn't had this issue, but I gather some people were, enough that Google did a real quick fix and you didn't have to do anything. Google averts a catastrophe with a serious Pixel 10 and Pixel 9 phone bug. A bug had been making certain Pixel phones unusable. That's pretty serious. But a swift, silent update from Google has saved the day. And this was published by Joanna Romero 3 days ago. So into reader view we go. A widespread issue was causing apps on the latest Pixel phones to crash, making them nearly impossible to use. Google has now rolled out a server-side fix, so your device should be working properly again without you needing to do a thing. So they did it server-side, which means you don't have to download anything. What's happening with the Pixel? This was the first I heard of this. A particularly nasty bug recently surfaced, sending apps on Pixel 10 and some Pixel 9 devices into a crashing frenzy. Now, my Pixel 9 Pro, which I traded in for my pet, it wasn't having the issue. My Pixel 10 wasn't having the issue, so I knew nothing about it. If you were affected, you know the pain. Pretty much every app you tried to open would immediately close. I can see that would be pretty aggravating, rendering your phone almost completely useless. It was, to put it mildly, a bit of a mess. Yeah, I can see why Google jumped on it. The issue seemed to pop up out of nowhere, and as reports flooded in, it became clear this was a high priority problem. According to a new report, multiple teams at Google were quickly tasked with squashing the bug. While there hasn't been an official root cause analysis, the leading theory points to a problem with Google Play services, which, yeah, we all use that. Why this was a bigger deal than your average bug? This wasn't just a minor glitch. It was a critical failure that crippled the core functionality of the phone. Well, yeah, if your apps keep shutting down, we rely on our devices for everything from communication to navigation. Thus, an issue that prevents you from opening any apps, such as the one seen in the above image, is a legitimate nightmare. Oh yeah, there's the image. Yeah, and we've all gotten that kind of notification. It's pretty aggravating, but if it's happening to all your apps, yeah, I can say that's pretty serious stuff. It essentially turns your smartphone into a paperweight. For Google, this kind of bug is a black eye, yeah, especially on its flagship devices that are meant to showcase the best of Android, especially the Pixel 10, which only came out a few weeks ago. The good news is that Google treated the situation with the urgency it deserved. A swift server-side fix has reportedly already been pushed out to the affected devices with no need for the device user to manually intervene, so you don't have to do anything. This was indicative of the urgency of the problem and how prompt the response was. A close call for Google. From my perspective, this was a bullet dodged for Google. A bug that renders a phone unusable is about as bad as it gets. Had this issue lingered longer than it already had, it could have done some serious damage to the Pixel's brand reputation for stability. Yeah, and just when Google Pixel phones are really starting to, people are starting to know them and buy them, and they're doing much, much better. I've seen my fair share of software bugs, and this one was one of the more disruptive ones. Like I said, I didn't hear about it, so my guess is maybe a lot of us didn't hear about it, and that's why it didn't spread around. But he's right. If it had spread around, it would have been pretty bad. That said, I have to give Google credit for the rapid response. Pushing a server-side fix means users didn't have to hunt for a software update or perform any complicated steps. Let's just hope the teams at Google are dissecting what went wrong to prevent a next time. So, glad they jumped all over that. Glad they got it fixed before it became a real, could have become a worldwide catastrophe, I would imagine. So, two good stories right off the bat. One helping with cancer, one fixing phones that need fixing badly. Now, if you need recovery, this is an interesting story. Useful new Google security feature for your phone. And I found this on CNET. And it hasn't come to my phone as yet. I haven't checked this afternoon, but as of last night, it hadn't come to my phone as yet. Google security feature now lets you phone a friend to recover your account. Recovery contacts, which lets a trusted friend verify your identity for you, is just one of Google's new security features. And this was written by Joe Hindy, who I gather is writing freelancing, because I hadn't seen him on CNET before. And Joe Hindy was on at Android Authority for about 11 years, I guess. So good to see him back in writing. Anyone who's, let's drop this into read if we get rid of the ads. Recovery contacts, which let a trusted friend verify your identity for you, is just one of Google's new security features. Anyone who's ever had their Google account hacked can tell you what a pain it is to recover. You'll spend hours or even days on it, and recovery isn't guaranteed no matter what you do. On Wednesday, Google announced the addition of several new security features to help prevent you from getting hacked and to make account recovery easier. One method may remind you of the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Just like in that game, it involves phoning a friend. That's right, that you did have to phone a friend on that show. Recover your Google account with a trusted contact. Google is already rolling out the new features. Like I said, I checked last night, it wasn't on mine yet. Dubbed recovery contacts, but not everyone has them yet. If they're available, and you can go check, you'll find them in the security section of your Google account settings. So I would think the Pixel phones would get them first, but like I said, my Pixel phone has not gotten it yet. First, you add a trusted contact to your Google account by following this link. So you click on this link and you have to fill out a bunch of information. And then when you do need recovery, you can call that friend and they can verify who you are. Obviously, you want to use only your most reliable contacts, like a spouse or close friend. Your contact will receive an email asking them to accept your invite, and it's done. Then, if your account becomes compromised, you'll see the option to ask your friend to help sign you in. They'll see a prompt on their device, and once they verify your identity, you'll be allowed back into your account where you can change your password and other credentials. So that's pretty good security, it sounds like to me. Remember that this addition gives Google additional information about your connection with your chosen contact. Of course, they're grabbing more information from you and from your friends, so keep that in mind. On one hand, recovery contacts is a good idea, senior editor Lori Grunin said. On the other hand, it helps Google build a web of associations among people that it might otherwise not have, and that can potentially be misused, and that's true. Even if you do enable these new features, it's important to enable others as well, such as a recovery email, a recovery phone number, and two-factor authentication, since attacks are still possible with these new features. So I guess enable everything in the new security stuff. Google's new recovery features are well-intentioned, said Aaron Rose, senior architect manager at Checkpoint Software, but if not carefully managed, they introduce a fresh attack surface. Yeah, you're leaving more room for hackers if you don't do it right. And here's Brian. Glad to have you here, sir, as always. Three of the most faithful right here. You guys are awesome. Okay. Any system that relies on human trust, like designing recovery contacts, can be socially engineered. We've seen similar tactics used in business email compromise schemes, where emotional manipulation, not technology, is the point of entry. Recover your Google account with your phone number. So these are some more of the updates that came through. Recovery contacts is one of several new features from Google that focus on account focus on account security. In addition to the new phone a friend option, Google will also let you recover an account with your phone number. If one is enabled, Google will ask for your previous device's PIN or pattern code. Which, yeah, when you set up a new phone, same thing. Google Messages is also safer. Since scammers often use text messages to attract victims, Google has added some new protections in Google Messages. That's good. That's part of its latest security features. The first is a link vetting feature that will warn you if Google Messages suspects a link that you received is spam. That's also good. An alert will pop up letting you know if the link was blocked, and you can circumvent this by marking the message not spam. Google's new safety features are a strong move in the right direction, says Lance Spitzner, director of SANS Workforce Cybersecurity Training. According to Spitzner, the link vetting feature is helpful because it can block access to known phishing websites before people get tricked. That's awesome. While these protections improve safety, Spitzner said that they work best when combined with ongoing awareness and a healthy dose of skepticism towards unexpected messages or links. The other new feature is called Key Verifier. This little tool presents as a QR code that your trusted contacts can scan, thereby verifying them with Google Messages. Also, Google launched Be Scam Ready, a game that helps teach players how to identify potential scams. So, mainly it's telling us about the phone a friend, but he gave us the other new features also. So, like I said, I have not gotten this on my phone yet. No. Let me go back in there just for a second. Because as he said, if you go available, but you go into your security section of your Google account settings, and you'll see the recovery contacts in there. Mine wasn't there yet. I'll check later. Again, anyway, I think it's a good thing. Okay, nothing else new. Let me get a little sip of Coke. I still love Coke. Okie dokie. Moving on. Does premium flagship still mean your phone must be a pro version? I said, I think not. And based on this article, you'll see the author doesn't think so either. It's the golden age of non-pro phones. Forget the FOMO, enjoy the JOMO, as 2025 fully belongs to the base phones. And it's written by Peter Kostadinov. I think I'm getting better with that name. And it was published 4 days ago. Let's drop into Readerview. So now, yeah, you don't have to spend the money for the Pro phone, as the base phones are so good. 2025 is fairly done when it comes to big name phone launches that will be available in the US. And the verdict, at least to me, is pretty clear. We're finally living in the golden age of non-pro phones. You no longer have to go with the most expensive and premium model to have a great experience. I totally agree. You can finally just do fine with the base phones. And that's what I did this year. The two phones that proved this point are none other than the standard Pixel 10 and the base iPhone 17. So, standard Pixel 10 and base iPhone 17. And that's what I went with this year because I knew I didn't need to go with the Pro. And you'll see why as we go through the article. And for the first time in forever, actually, I didn't really feel a yearning for the premium flagships. The iPhone 17 and Pixel 10 proved premium phones are no longer needed. To me, the adoption of a ProMotion display has been nothing short of a revelation for the base iPhone 17. I totally agree. In my iPhone 17 review, I opined that this change finally addresses one of Apple's most glaring omissions, and I gather people had been asking for it for a long time. And this can't be any truer. A screen that refreshes at up to 120 hertz was the only missing piece that has previously made me stay away from the base iPhone and willy-nilly forced me to use the more feature-rich and expensive Pro models, even though I didn't really have use for any other Pro feature that they offered. Good point. And having a 120 hertz screen in 2025 isn't exactly a spoiled feature. No, it's become pretty common. It's not a luxury anymore. It's the standard that pretty much all other phones have moved to years ago. Ironically, it's the Pixel 10 that's pretty much the last holdout with a 60 hertz screen. I know I didn't believe my eyes when I first gazed at the preliminary spec sheets that Google sent us before the announcement. However, one thing that the Pixel 10 does and kind of evens out the lack of a display with a high refresh rate can be found at the back of the phone on its camera island. Unlike the iPhone, which gives us only a dual camera, which you can see right here, hopefully. The base Pixel actually packs a 5x telephoto, ironically longer than what the iPhone 17 Pro Max offers. And you can see there the Pixel 10 has 3 cameras. So, yes, you can't really zoom to 100 times like on the premium Pixels, but you don't really need to. Yeah, who's really going to zoom to 100 times more than once to check it? Unlike Chinese phones from brands like Oppo and Vivo, Google doesn't actually do 100 times zoom very well. That's true. So apart from a party trick, this one has little real world repercussions, at least on the Pixels. The bottom line is both Google and Apple are starting to make their base devices finally viable alternatives to the Pro models. I agree. And for the first time in years, I don't really feel like I have to go with an iPhone Pro Max or a Pixel Pro XL. That's true. That's why I traded both of mine for the current base versions. But wait, there has to be a compact flagship phone that combines a telephoto camera with a high refresh screen. The base Galaxy has been doing all that for ages. Yeah, I don't have that on the Samsung. It's actually the base Galaxy that has combined a high refresh screen with a telephoto camera for years. And Brian's being his faithful self. Thank you so much, as always, sir. Always very much appreciated. Living in the thick shade that the Galaxy S Ultra cast, this one doesn't really get a lot of time under the spotlight apart from the buzz around its initial launch, usually in February each year. It actually does a lot of things right with a great AMOLED that's a joy to use, no frills performance, unlike the Pixel, and a camera that's a bit more versatile than the one on the iPhone, despite probably not being as good in some scenarios. Video comes to mind. Yes, I just did a comparison with the iPhone and the OnePlus 13 the other day, and of course everybody said, well, the iPhone is killing it in video, and of course it does. It's also fairly compact, a rarity these days. By the way, the OnePlus 13, I think on photos, did just as good a job as the iPhone did. But the biggest asset of the Galaxy S26, which of course isn't out yet, at least to me, is One UI. It's sort of a running joke to say that Samsung software is among the most fleshed out and customizable ones, but that's just the reality of it. Oh, and by the way, I just wanted to mention, folks, a couple of stories I've seen today. Seems like the S25 Edge is really, really selling poorly. And not only did Samsung cancel the S26 Edge for next year, they stopped making the S25 bit. So things are really not going good with their thin phone. So Apple's won that battle. Okay. It definitely is a much better product than the stockish Android gracing the Pixel 10 and a far cry from the underbaked liquid glass interface that the iPhone 17 now offers. So he's praising the Samsung Galaxy. When you throw in the immense customizability that Samsung's Good Lock modules offer, which I have on my Z Flip 7 FE, Samsung's phones right now offer an unprecedented mix of top features and deep customization rivaled by no other Android manufacturer. Yeah, I love the fact that with Samsung's Good Lock, I can fold my Flip. I know don't have it with me today, but you know how tiny that is. That's about that big, really, when it's closed. And you can still put all your apps on that outer screen. So it's pretty awesome. So save yourself some moolah and stop suggesting your pinky finger to those large and heavy slabs. The compact flagship is living through a renaissance right now, and the Galaxy S25 probably offers the best value of them all. Flagship fronting in place doesn't help their case. At the same time, those Pro models that all of us usually covered are kind of in a rut in 2025. The Galaxy S25 Ultra, slightly different new design, but the same tired 5,000 milliamp battery in the back. The iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max didn't score any major new features either. Sure, a slightly higher res telephoto is nice, but not a groundbreaking improvement in any way. I totally agree, and that's why I went for the base iPhone 17. Point is, in 2025, base flagship phones tightened the gap to their more exclusive peers significantly, and while it's still true that you're getting a little more of everything from a more expensive phone, you aren't losing as much if you use a regular flagship these days. It's the more financially sensible thing to do in late 2025. So totally agree, and I proved it by what I purchased. And that does say to me that Apple and Pixel are somewhat listening to their customers, so that's a very good thing. So, nothing else new. Let's move on. Like I said, with me alone, it's usually a quicker night. Now, this one is a really interesting. This is one of those I'm just bringing it to you because it's so interesting. Because I would never pay to talk online with somebody. At least I don't think I would. Rent a Cyber Friend lets you pay to interact with a human rather than a bot. And I found this on TechCrunch, which tells you about TechCrunch is pretty much dedicated to new apps and that kind of thing. And in this one, they're actually talking about a gathering they have in San Francisco once a year. But I just thought this was pretty fascinating. Rent a Cyber Friend will pay you to talk to strangers online and will show off its platform at TechCrunch Disrupt 2025. That's, I gather, their annual thing in San Francisco. And let's see. Okay, get out of here. This was written, by Amanda Siebelring yesterday. Let's drop this into reader view. Francesco Vitale will be the first to admit that when his co-founder Chris Siametis first pitched him on Rent a Cyber Friend, he didn't quite get the idea. Who's going to pay somebody to speak with somebody? Vitale told TechCrunch, but Chris was insistent. Chris is a millennial and I'm Gen X. So it wasn't easy for me to understand his vision. So he's the older one, so he's not getting it so quick. Vitale had worked with Siametis for about 2 decades. They ran 48 Film, an international short film festival. Vitale is also a film producer. So he took a leap of faith to trust his collaborator on the idea he couldn't shake, a video chat platform where people can pay per minute. That could get expensive real fast, I would think, for a casual conversation with a cyber friend. And later on, you'll see somebody who uses this a lot and spends a lot of money on it. Rent a Cyberfriend ballooned to 3 million registered users without raising venture capital or spending any money on marketing. So it just took off, I guess, and very popular. The company doesn't even have social media because it's too short-staffed to devote resources to it. The startup is part of Startup Battlefield and will be presenting at TechCrunch Disrupt 2025 at the end of this month in San Francisco. The company's fast growth proved Vitaly's first reactions wrong, but as he used the product himself, he began to realize that there's a big market for human connection. Who knew? Especially in a time when people are paying to talk to AI bots. And we've had lots of stories about people talking to their AI. So it kind of makes some sense. Loneliness is the biggest disease in the world right now, Vitaly said. Millions are lonely and they are underemployed or seeking purpose, all true. So we built a platform where human time has value again, in a place where being human is important. Yeah, it has value, and you're going to pay through the nose for that value. Cyber friends are first vetted to verify their identity. And then they can set a permanent rate to charge for their conversations, and people are paying it. The platform keeps 20% of that fee. So I guess the person gets 80%. People aren't just paying for companionship. Some cyber friends charge a higher rate if they're an academic or vetted expert in a specific subject area. That makes sense. Or if they speak in a particular language that a user would like to practice. For any social media platform, especially one that connects people in real-time video chats, safety and content moderation is a challenge. Yes, it would be. Vitaly knows that the platform has a block feature, but as the company continues to grow, it will need to invest further in maintaining a healthy environment. Yes, security is going to become a big issue, I would think. He said that next on the product roadmap is a more robust and efficient system for vetting potential cyber friends, that's good, more quickly and thoroughly. Vitaly's turning point came, now get this, not long after the company launched, when he connected with a 19-year-old from China. And this Chinese 19-year-old has got some bucks. He noticed this person was one of the site's most active users, and he spent $200 per day to talk to people. Where does he get $200 a day? Anyway, I just find that amazing. Vitaly rigged the site so that he would be the only cyber friend available and used the opportunity to ask the user about his experience without revealing that he founded the company. So he became the cyber friend, which is perfectly valid, I think, as long as the guy's willing to pay that kind of money. He said, now this is the Chinese guy. He said, I don't feel safe to go out at the mall and meet with strangers, but this site gives me the possibility to exchange culture and meet people from all over the world. And that was the first moment that I realized we have something here, Vitaly recalls. This kid's spending $200 a day. It's amazing. He still thinks that the connections that people make in person are irreplaceable. I agree. But on an internet where people are sucked into addictive or dangerous connections with AI chatbots that are designed to maximize engagement, this step of turning towards humanity means something to him. So I just thought it was a very interesting story, and this Chinese kid really makes some money or has somebody giving him a lot of money. But very interesting story. So at least you're not talking to chatbots, and I guess that's a good thing. So, all right, I've got one more story left. And, Mike does a lot of DoorDash delivering, so this would affect him except that it's being tested in Phoenix. And Mike is in Jersey, of course. Waymo and DoorDash partner up in Phoenix testing self-driving delivery. Again, this was on TechCrunch also. Waymo dips its wheels back into deliveries. I guess they've done it before, this time with DoorDash. And yeah, they do explain it as we go down. Written by Kirsten Korosek, also from yesterday. So let's jump into Reader View. This is a good follow-up to the one I did on their DoorDash robot last week. The sprawling metropolis of Phoenix, yes, Phoenix is very spread out, continues to be a test bed for Waymo, and not just on the technical front. The Alphabet-owned company has used its first testing in commercial market to experiment with its business model too, including delivery. Waymo is known for its robo-taxis, which I gather are a lot more safe than Tesla's. But it has tested how its tech could be used for delivery. The company previously tapped UPS and Uber Eats for pilot programs, so it didn't do it with DoorDash. And it put considerable staff and resources toward developing self-driving trucks under its Waymo Veer arm, which I had never heard of, before shuttering that program in 2023 to focus on robo-taxis. And I gather in San Francisco and Phoenix, they're pretty good at picking up and taxiing people around with no driver whatsoever. Now it seems Waymo is ready to test the delivery waters through a strategic multi-year partnership. They didn't tell us how many years with DoorDash. Waymo doesn't have any other active delivery-focused testing, operations, or partnerships, according to a company spokesman. The partnership will match DoorDash customers ordering food and groceries within the 315 square mile area of Phoenix with a self-driving Waymo, the company wrote in a blog post. Yeah, 315 square miles sounds a lot, but keep in mind, square miles, and Phoenix is very large area-wise. Not every DoorDash order will result in a Waymo delivery. Initially, the Waymo delivery service will deliver orders from DashMart, DoorDash's convenience, grocery, and retail stores. I didn't even know they had stores. The companies said that over time, more local Phoenix merchants and a wider variety of offerings will be added. David Victor, Vice President of Business and Corporate Development at DoorDash, said the deal with Waymo will give customers a new and delightful experience, maybe so, while advancing our vision for a multimodal autonomous future of local commerce. DoorDash isn't new to the autonomous vehicle technology arena, that's true. The company has been partnered with sidewalk delivery bot company Serve Robotics to cover parts of Los Angeles. It has its own in-house autonomous vehicle tech team that developed and produced an autonomous delivery bot called Dot, which I told you about that last week. The delivery bot, which was revealed in September, is being tested in the Phoenix area. So they've got their robots, and now they're going to have their cars with no drivers also delivered. The deal with Waymo won't involve DoorDash's Dot vehicle, so it won't involve the robot. However, instead, food or groceries will be placed in the trunk of a Waymo vehicle, a driverless Jaguar, or that must cost I-Pace, that will navigate on its own to the customer. But of course, this is Google money, so, well, Alphabet money. From here, the customer will have to retrieve the items from the trunk via the DoorDash app. Yeah, I wouldn't think that would be too difficult. The last step, which requires the customer to walk out to the car and grab the delivered items, don't strain yourself, will be the biggest test for both companies as they try to determine whether the novelty of receiving groceries delivered by an autonomous vehicle outweighs the convenience of a human handing over the items at their door. So, I would think at least you're eliminating having to tip anybody, I'm guessing. Kirsten Korosek is a reporter. Oh, it's just telling us about who wrote, as they always do. I just thought it's interesting. So last week, We found that they're testing their robots delivering in Phoenix, and now they're testing their autonomous cars delivering in Phoenix. So, interesting. DoorDash is making deals, and I'm thinking it's probably not going to go over real well with the drivers if this stuff starts getting popular. I'm just guessing, of course. So that's all the stories I've got for today, folks. And just to show you up close, as I said in the beginning, my main phone that I took to work today was my OnePlus 13, and my backup was my iPhone 17. And the reason you can see through it is because I have a green screen behind me, and it's a green phone. So that's all I've got for tonight, folks. Maybe Ted will be in here with us next week. It's always better when he's with us. But I'm really grateful for you guys being so faithful and to come and watch. And I'm hoping that the stories are interesting enough for you guys and you're not seeing them in other places, I wouldn't think. So I hope everybody has a very blessed weekend and a very blessed week. And as always, we all do better when we love each other. So I will leave you with, come on, people now, smile on your brother. Everybody get together, try to love one another right now.